Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda.
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 Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Jaya Dvaita Chandra
Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Glory to Sri Chaitanya Nityananda, glory to Advaita Chandra, and glory to all the devotees of Sri Gaura, Lord Chaitanya. Omajnanatimirandhasya jnananjanashalakaya chakshurunmilitam yena tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Mukam karoti vachalam pangum langhayate girim yatkripatamaham vande Shri Gurun Dinatarinam. Paramanandamadhavam Shri Krishna Chaitanyamishwaram. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine. Namaste Saraswate Deve Kauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. I seek the blessings of all the assembled Vaishnavas so that I can speak in glorification of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's pastime of cleaning Gundica temple. We will try to read some verses and then discuss. It's a pretty big chapter. There are a lot of verses, and specifically for this pastime itself, there are about 70 verses describing this particular pastime. So let me write here. 70, that's where the pastime will start. And I will hide synonyms, chapter description. And there are very few purports. There's one purport which is really, really long. Okay. Oops. Right in Bengali. Okay. That's good. Okay. So let's start this. 72 is where it starts. Pratame Kashi Mishre Prabhu Bola Ila Padicha Patra Sarva Bhaume Bolana Anila. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu first of all called for Kashi Mishra, then for the superintendent of the temple, then for Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. So Kashi Mishra, he is a scholar in the Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya also, and Kashi Mishra, these are the scholars. And then there is the superintendent of the temple. His name is not given here. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he was residing in Jagannath Puri. How long did he stay in Jagannath Puri? Does anyone know?
18 years.
Yes, 18 years. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu took sannyasa at the age of 24, and the first 6 years he was in South India Yatra, and then the later 18 years he is in Jagannath Puri. So Jagannath Puri is very important kshetra for us. the Gaudiya Vaishnavas. Of course, it is important for everybody, but particularly for us. And Srila Prabhupada used to go to Jagannath Puri from Calcutta. He used to look for the schedule when the next train is going to Jagannath Puri. And Srila Prabhupada had a special interest in Jagannath Rath Yatra. He used to conduct the Rath Yatra when he was a child in his neighborhood. And so he was very expert in the Rath Yatra celebrations. And when he came to the Western world, he also established Rath Yatra festival. And now you see that it is being celebrated all over the world. And before Rath Yatra, there is Snana Yatra. And then after that, there's also Rath Yatra, and Gundica Marjanam also happens. And so that the Lord comes from the main temple and he stays in the Gundica temple. And after that, then there is Ulta Rath Yatra, when he goes back to the main temple in Jagannath Puri. So before the Lord comes before the Lord comes to the Gundica temple, the whole Gundica temple is cleansed. So when he's brought from main temple to the Gundica temple, then Gundica temple will be cleansed. So this pastime describes the cleaning of the Gundica temple. And here the Lord has called for the superintendent of the temple and Kashi Mishra and Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. So then when these three people came before the Lord, he begged them for permission to wash the temple known as Gundica. Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Krishna himself. But here we can see he is following the etiquette. He is asking for their permission. So what I described here is also in the purport. At the time of the Rath Yatra festival, Lord Jagannatha goes to the Gundica temple from his original temple and stays there for 1 week. After 1 week, he returns to his original temple. So now this Gundica temple is named after, Prabhupada is saying, it is understood by hearsay that this Gundica temple is named after King Indradyumna's wife. So King Indradyumna, he was the one who established the temple of Lord Jagannatha. And there's a story behind it, and I'm sure most of you, all of you probably already know about that. So his wife's name is Gundica, and probably it is named after her. So now Prabhupada gives the dimensions of the temple. And just note these dimensions. So we'll come back to this because there will be the planning for cleaning. How big is the area, and they to perform the activity of cleaning. So upon hearing the Lord's request for permission to wash the Gundica temple, the Padicha, I think it seems like Padicha means the superintendent of the temple is called Padicha. He said, "My dear sir, we are all your servants. Whatever you desire is our duty to perform. The king gave a special order for me to do without delay whatever your lordship orders." Who is the king? Who is the king at the time of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in Orissa?
Maharaj Pratap Putra.
Yes, Maharaja Prataparudra. He was the king. So actually, he is a devotee of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And at this time, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did not give him darshan yet. But the king was very anxious. He even wanted to renounce being a king and become a mendicant, because Chaitanya Mahaprabhu refused to see him. And the devotees tried many times and it didn't work out. But there were other arrangements made to keep the king alive. So without, the king was actually heartbroken. So the devotees made some other arrangements to pacify him. until Chaitanya Mahaprabhu can see him. So until this point, it did not happen, but the king was anxious to see him. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was always admired by the king, and the king told his servants to do whatever Chaitanya Mahaprabhu asks. So then the attendant is saying, "My dear Lord, washing the temple is not service befitting you. Nonetheless, if you wish to do so, it is to be accepted as one of your pastimes. To wash the temple, you need many water pots and brooms. Therefore, order me. I can immediately bring all these things to you." As soon as the superintendent understood the desire of the Lord, he immediately delivered 100 new water pots and 100 brooms for sweeping the temple. So now I don't know how many brooms do we have. Does anyone know? There's Nanda Gopal Prabhu here in the temple. Probably we may have one for the main temple, one for the hall.
Yeah, so for temple hall 2, prasadam hall 2, and then smaller for pujari rooms. Total 6.
6, okay. Wow, we see here Nanda Gopal Prabhu is a confidential servant of Krishna. He knows all the inner details.
Nothing like that. Raga Sindhu Prabhu is the servant. I'm someone who knows. That's it.
So they had 100 parts. And then what is the area of the temple? How many square feet? How big is the temple? How big is the property? Probably we can go on Zillow and find out.
Yeah, I don't.
So they have 6. Now they had 100 brooms. So it must be big. So Prabhupada mentioned previously that it is 288 by 215. What did he say? Cubits. And 1 cubit is 1.5 feet. So if you multiply 288 by 215, and then that's the total area of the property of the temple. But then he said it's 1.5 foot. So then we should multiply it by 1.5. 1.5. That will give you the how many square foot? 139,320. About 3-acre property, looks like. That's the whole temple area. And now they have to clean. Of course, there may be the building may be smaller. The building is 10 times smaller, you could say. And so they have to clean the whole area, the inside and outside. They have to perform that activity. So they had 100 water pots and 100 brooms. That is their planning. You have to do planning before you clean. And the next day, early in the morning, the Lord took his personal associates with him and with his own hand smeared sandalwood pulp on their bodies. So when the devotees came, and this is a sign of respect, right? So you honor all the devotees. So he smeared sandalwood pulp. What does sandalwood pulp do to the bodies? What is the nature of sandalwood pulp?
Cool.
Yes, it is cooling. And so therefore we see in some temples, they offer chandan to Srila Prabhupada, to the deity, and they take a flower and put chandan. So you see Srila Prabhupada in some of the pictures, he has some paste other than tilak on his forehead. So that is sandalwood pulp. It is very cooling. Actually, this is something that's nice to do in Ratha Yatra. You can offer chandan to the Lord, and then the prasad can be given to the devotees if it's okay with them. And you are in hot summer doing kirtan and going around, and that chandan actually it's cooling. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave this sandalwood pulp to all those who came for cleaning. He then gave each devotee a broom with his own hand, and taking all of them personally with him, the Lord went to Gundica. In this way, the Lord and his associates went to cleanse the Gundica temple. At first, they cleansed the temple with the brooms. Let's take turns to read. Let me go to another view. Okay. Gita Malamati, would you like to read? Maybe
Sure.
five verses.
Sure. Starting from text 82?
Yes.
Okay. The Lord cleansed everything inside the temple very nicely, including the ceiling. He then took up the sitting place, Simhasana, cleansed it, and again put it in its original place. Thus, the Lord and his companions cleansed and swept all of the temple's buildings, big and small, and finally cleansed the area between the temple and the Kirtana hall. Indeed, hundreds of devotees were engaged in cleansing all around the temple, and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was personally carrying out the operation just to instruct others. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu washed and cleansed the temple in great jubilation, chanting the holy name of Lord Krishna all the time. Similarly, all the devotees were also chanting and at the same time performing their respective duties. The entire beautiful body of the Lord was covered with dust and dirt. In this way, it became transcendently beautiful. At times when cleansing the temple, the Lord shed tears, and in some places, he even cleansed with those tears.
Right. So after Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gathered everybody and, he handed over brooms to everybody personally, and then he went to clean the temple. And the very first place he cleansed is the main temple, the inner part of the temple where the deities will be kept when Jagannath comes. So that's the area he first cleansed, and including the Singhasana. Singhasana means the place where the Lord will sit. It's so called because usually the asanas, they'll have these lions on both sides as where you rest your arms, the armrest. So it's called Singhasana. And he cleansed. So he took it and then he cleansed it and he cleansed the place where that asana is kept and he put it back. So this is how he cleansed. He also cleansed the ceiling. Now, if we are cleaning, what would you clean first? Would you clean the floor or the ceiling first?
Ceiling.
Why?
Because
You went on mute.
because if we clean the floor first, when we clean the ceiling next, then the dust will come.
Yes.
And the floor will be dirty.
Yes. Only those who clean can think if the first time you're cleaning, then you have to make this planning, understand what needs to be done. But we see here Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, first, instead of doing outside first and then coming in, they started inside out. So you can, why? Because you can push the dirt and everything away from the inside to outside, and then it can go away like that. So they also cleansed the ceiling, and in this way, the Lord started cleaning. So one of the things here it is mentioned they did is while they are cleaning, there's some other thing they were doing. What was that? Are they just doing the physical act of cleaning and that's it?
Chanting the holy name of the Lord.
Yes, they were chanting. So devotional service, while performing any act of devotional service, then this holy name has to be there. When there is arati, we have kirtan. And when we are cooking for Krishna, we can chant. When we are making garlands, we can chant. Or we can put a tape of kirtan, Srila Prabhupada's kirtan, or some lecture, something we can do. So the physical activity is always accompanied by thinking of Krishna as well, which can be done but through the process of chanting the holy names. And this is something very common that we see even Mother Yashoda when she is churning the butter. She would talk, she would sing, she would actually compose her own songs in glorification of Krishna. So this idea of thinking of Krishna when chanting, when doing an activity, is something that Krishna also instructs Arjuna in Bhagavad Gita. Ma manusmara yudhyacha. Even when you're fighting Arjuna, you think of me. And also satatam kirtayanto mam. Always chanting my glories. Devotees are always chanting my glories. So not only cleaning, but the accompanying with the cleaning is the chanting. So this is something we must remember in performing our devotional activities. Is the consciousness also must be on Krishna. It is not just the external activity, but we have to also think of Krishna while doing those activities. And particularly when we make prasadam, when we make bhoga for the Lord, when we cook, this is very important because the consciousness with which we cook, that bhakti, that's what Krishna will accept. And when Krishna accepts it, then we receive the prasadam. So then in that prasadam also we can feel the consciousness. So here we see Chaitanya Mahaprabhu by his personal example, he's teaching that while the activity of cleaning is going on, there's also chanting the holy names of the Lord. And while Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was cleaning, then his body is covered by dirt. Now here, a dirty body is not beautiful, but we can see Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's golden body, when it is covered by dirt, actually it became beautiful. And we see the same thing with Lord Krishna, when he herds the cows and the calves, and he comes back. And when he's coming back, there's dust raised by all these cows. And sometimes there may be dust on Lord Krishna's face, but it is described as so beautiful. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's body, actually, it became transcendently beautiful when it is covered by the dirt, when he was cleaning the temple. And he was also shedding tears. And it said he even cleansed the place with the tears. He cleansed with waters, but he's cleaning with his. That means we can imagine how much of the tears are coming out of his eyes, so much so that it is used for cleansing the place. Okay, any volunteers to read the next 5 verses? 87.
I can read,
91.
Prabhuji.
Yes, thank you, Mataji. Please go ahead.
After this, the place where the deity's food was kept, Bhoga Mandir, was cleansed. Then the yard was cleansed, and then all the residential quarters, one after the other. After Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu collected all the straw, dust, and grains of sand in one place, he gathered it all in his cloth and threw it outside. Following the example of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, all the devotees in great jubilation began to gather straws and dust with their own clothes and throw them outside the temple. The Lord then told the devotees, I can tell how much you have labored and how well you have cleansed the temple simply by seeing all the straw and dust you have collected outside. Even though all the devotees collected dirt in one pile, the dirt collected by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was much greater.
Jai. So here we can see after the temple, the inner temple, and the next thing that was cleansed was the kitchen, the deity's kitchen. And so then the yard and the residential quarters. So that's the order in which the cleaning was done. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, of course, here the cleaning is what's happening. They are sweeping, and then again you use water for mopping. What happens if you mop before you sweep? Sometimes we may try, right? So it looks okay, let's just mop. then what happens?
It will be more cluttered, Prabhuji. It will not
Yeah,
be.
yeah, because all the dirt will spread and stick, and it becomes difficult. Then you have to, and the cloth that you use actually will become dirty quickly. If you, without sweeping, if you mop and there's so much dirt, what happens? All the dirt will stick to the cloth, and then that cloth, now you need to wash that cloth for a long time before it becomes clean. I don't know if you have that experience, but I have that experience. Sometimes, yeah, let's just mop, you take the cloth and mop, and then it becomes so dirty. So first yes,
Laughing, Prabhu, no Swiffer jet, right?
yes, no super jet. Yeah, no super jet. I know nowadays you have all these machines to do. We have labor-saving devices. Of course, it will save time when we don't have enough people to do the service. Mm. But what happens is actually, even in the spiritual world, the goddesses of fortune, they go and try to cleanse the temple of the Lord, the Lord's residential quarter. And all the devotees, when they're cleaning, actually there's nothing there to clean, but still they'll take a rag and try to cleanse. There's nothing there, just for the sake of service. Mm. But here we may have a lot of service, so we use other options to do. But maybe just for Gundica Marjana, once a year, we can all try to do like what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is doing. So then here Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also, there's a friendly competition. And he's saying, I can tell you how much you have labored by how much dust and straw you have collected. So the straw are these little pieces of grass and all these things. They will also come inside because of the wind. Of course, here we keep all the windows closed, and we have either heating or cooling going on. So therefore it's all closed. But in India, the windows are pretty much open all the time to let the air come in, to have good air circulation. And you may have these pieces of straw also coming inside. So therefore now that's all collected, and when you sweep, that will all go away. So typically in India, you have to cleanse 2 times a day. Once in the morning, sweep in the morning and sweep in the evening. And because of keeping the windows open and all that stuff, dust will collect. So morning and evening, that activity will happen. Now that's not the case here. We may do whenever, once every few days, whenever it collects. So then, but he said, how much you collect, that's how I'm going to measure your labor. And now what happened? There's a one pile where all the devotees put their stuff. And there's one pile, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's. And whose pile was bigger? Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's pile was bigger. He collected more dust than anyone else. That collected by Mahaprabhu was much greater. Okay, so then from 92 to 96, any other volunteer? Anyone else would like to read?
I can read, Prabhuji.
Yes, the next 5 verses, please. Thank you.
You said 92, right?
Yes.
After the inside of the temple was cleansed, the Lord again allotted areas for the devotee to cleanse. The Lord then ordered everyone to cleanse the inside of the temple very perfectly by taking finer dust, straws, and grains of sand and throwing them outside. After Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and all of the Vaishnavas cleansed the temple for the second time, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was very happy to see the cleansing work. While the temple was being swept, about 100 men stood ready with filled water pots. They simply awaited the Lord's order to throw water from them. One more, right?
Yes, one more.
As soon as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu called for water, all the men immediately brought the hundreds water pots, which were completely filled, and delivered them before the Lord.
Yes. So we see here, after all the cleaning is done, that there are actually not just dust and straws. Now in this one, we also see grains of sand. So dust is the powder, and then there's grains of sand, and there is some straws. So all of that was removed and collected. But then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, let's do this again. Let's do this again. Because some of the stuff may be still there. So they did a thorough cleaning second time. And after the cleaning, the next thing is washing. So then, of course, it is a little different. You clean, you sweep, and then you wash, and then you mop. That's another way. So what happens is through that process, then the cloth will not get a lot of dirt on it. So even while you sweep with the broom, and then at the same time you can throw water, and then you can scrub with the broom, and then you can clean like that. And once all that stuff is done, then we can take a towel and then wipe everything away. So I remember this process when I was a kid. I used to help when my mother or aunt would sweep and then sweep again with water, and I would take a cloth and then dry. And that's the process. Of course, now we probably just sweep and then take a wet cloth and then do the mopping because the dirt is not that much. So they brought these hundreds of water pots filled with water. Okay, anyone else would like to read the next 5?
In this way, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu first washed the main temple, then thoroughly washed the ceiling, the walls, the floors, the sitting place, himsasana, and everything else with the room. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself and his devotees began to throw water onto the ceiling. When this water fell, it washed the walls and the floor. Then Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu began to wash the sitting place of Lord Chaitanya with his own hands, and the devotees began to bring water to the Lord. All the devotees within the temple began to wash. Each one had a broom in his hand, and in this way they cleansed the temple of the Lord. Some brought water to pour into the hands of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and some poured water on his lotus feet.
Yeah, thank you very much. So now after that, the cleaning process, and they swept everything, and now they're also cleaning everything with water. And now this is the fun part, right? So as soon as there is water, it's time for fun. And they brought this water and they started throwing this water. And sometimes Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would personally take water with his hands and then put it there and clean. So then they would pour water in the hands of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Then he would put it there and clean. So then some of them, they started pouring water on Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's feet. Now when you have hundreds of devotees with hundreds of water pots and water going everywhere, somebody just thought, oh, okay, let me try something. And they started pouring water on Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's feet. And now this is the fun part. Who would like to read next 5 verses? Okay, if there's no volunteers, I will read. So the water that fell, yes, go ahead.
The water that fell from the lotus feet of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was drunk by someone who hid himself. Someone else begged for that water, and another person was giving that water in charity. After the room was washed, the water was let out through an outlet, and it then flowed and filled the yard outside. The Lord mopped the rooms with his own clothes, and he polished the throne with them also. In this way, all the rooms were cleansed with 100 water pots. After the rooms had been cleansed, the minds of the devotees were as clean as the rooms.
One more.
One more. When the temple was cleansed, it was purified, cool and pleasing, just as if the Lord's own pure mind had appeared.
Yes. So here, when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's feet was washed, then naturally there are certain things that are very purifying. The dust from the feet of the devotee, the water that has washed the feet of a devotee, and the remnants of the food of a devotee. So all of these can be accepted, and they are very, very uplifting and purifying if we accept them. So when somebody washed Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's feet like this, then what happened? They drank that water. And now the nature of a devotee is to share that mercy with others. So here Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami is saying they gave that in charity. One time, when devotee asked Srila Prabhupada, is it, what is more beneficial? Is it better to keep the whole Mahaprasad for ourselves or that share it with others? And what was Prabhupada's answer? Does anyone remember? He said both are good. And both are good. So, and actually devotees, they would, Prabhupada say you can even steal Mahaprasad. Of course, the devotees, Srila Prabhupada's Mahaprasad, spiritual master's Mahaprasad, even if you after he's done eating, scrape off and and then eat, then that's good. And one time, Srila Prabhupada had this, halwa, I believe. So devotee was hoping to get the Mahaprasad, right, of Srila Prabhupada. And then he started eating and then he was not leaving anything. The devotee is thinking, you know what, I can, once Prabhupada is done, maybe I can get the, scrape something out of it. And Prabhupada ate all of that. And then he even took his finger and, scraped everything. And it is, this is very good. He was teasing the devotee because he had a plan in his mind.
He knew what the devotee was thinking.
Yes, exactly. So devotees have these plans, right? And then one time, another devotee, he brought a briefcase for Prabhupada. And he said, Prabhupada, your briefcase, it's going bad. I got a new one for you. And then, oh, really? He said, yes, Prabhupada, here you go. You look at this. And then Prabhupada took that one. And then the devotee is saying, okay, now Prabhupada will give the old one to me, right? So then what Prabhupada did is he opened the new one, and then he took the old one, he put the old one inside the new one, closed it, and then he took it and he started walking around. How do I look? That devotee was trying to be smart, but Prabhupada was smarter than him. So, and Prabhupada said, looked at this guy and he was, bewildered. I said, do you want the old briefcase? He said, yes, Prabhupada. Okay, then ask me. I'm your spiritual master. I'm smarter than you. I know what you're trying to do. So anyway, so here devotees, they're trying to get the mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And they're secretly trying to pour water here and there and then put it on Mahaprabhu's feet and then trying to collect that and give it in charity. And later we'll see what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would do. So in this way, they also mopped, and here we say Chaitanya Mahaprabhu previously collected dust with his own cloth, and now he's also mopping with his own cloth and polishing everything. And in this way, everything was cleansed. Here now 107. Anyone else would like to read?
Can I read?
Yes, Sugopi.
Okay. Since hundreds of men were engaged in bringing water from the lake, there was no place to stand on the banks. Consequently, someone began to draw water from a well. Hundreds of devotees brought water in the pots, and hundreds took the empty pots away to fill them up again. With the exception of Nityananda Prabhu, Advaita Acharya, Swarupa Damodara, Brahmananda Bharati, and Paramananda Puri, everyone was engaged in filling the water pots and bringing them there. Many of the water pots were broken when people collided with one another, and hundreds of men had to bring new water pots to fill. Some people were filling the pots, and others were washing the rooms, but everyone was engaged in chanting the holy name of Krishna and Hari.
Jai. So now here, the scene is being described, right? So, okay, they're just bringing pots and then it's being cleansed. But there are also some problems, sometimes it happens. So these water pots, they are not metal pots, they're earthen pots. And typically that's what, that's what was in usage even up until, a couple of decades ago. So these water pots, when you are in a rush and they're actually bringing from a lake, and then when there are hundreds of men bringing and trying to transfer the empty parts and then the filled parts, and there was clashing and something would break, and then they would bring newer and newer parts. And then the next part, this is very nice, 112 to 116. Anyone else would like to read who hasn't read? Okay, so I will read this section. One person begged for a water pot by chanting the holy names Krishna, Krishna, and another delivered a pot while chanting Krishna, Krishna. Whenever anyone had to speak, he did so by uttering the holy name of Krishna. Consequently, the holy name of Krishna became an indication for everyone who wanted something. As Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was vibrating the holy name of Krishna in ecstatic love, he himself was performing the work of hundreds of men. It appeared as though Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu were cleansing and washing with 100 hands. He approached every devotee just to teach him how to work. When he saw someone doing nicely, the Lord praised him. But if he saw that someone was not working to his satisfaction, he immediately chastised that person, not bearing him any grudge. So there is always, chanting of Krishna, Krishna. Sometimes we say Hari Bol, Hari Bol. So this is how they communicated with each other. They communicated by calling out Krishna, Krishna. And even if they needed something, that's how it is, saying Krishna, Krishna. And Sugapi, you have a raised hand. You wanted to say something?
I had a question based on one of these verses.
Mm-hmm.
So in the material world, we have other forces that judge if we're doing our best or not in any endeavor, like we get grades or we get reports from our bosses. But in Krishna consciousness, it's between us and Krishna mostly to try to do our best for Krishna. And here Mahaprabhu's making sure that everyone does their best. But how can we make sure in our devotional lives in this day and age that we are never falling back and becoming lazy, and we're still doing our best because we don't have external forces to judge our progress?
Yes, so it's a good question. Actually, this topic will lead into that. And it's 20 verses away from here. We have only 14 minutes. So maybe I'll quickly cover this and I'll speak on that point, okay?
Okay.
Yeah, so this, we can see the importance of the holy name in the whole process. So while they were doing the activity, they were chanting the holy names. And even the process of communication was also through chanting of the holy names. So sometimes we say, Hari Bol, Hari Bol. And we even sing Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol. What does Hari Bol mean? What is the meaning of Hari Bol?
Chant Hari.
Yes, chant Hari, chant Hari. So instead of chanting Hari Bol, we can actually chant Hari, right? So we can say Hare Krishna. Because Hari Bol seems nice to chant, but then we are saying you chant Hari, then you chant Hari, you chant Hari. That's what we're saying. So we can just say, we can sing Hare Krishna, we can just say Hare Krishna, like that. So now here Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, yeah, it is said here, he chastised that person not bearing him any grudge. And if you see the Bengali, Pavitra Bhatsana. Pavitra means pure. So his correction of the devotees was very pure. It is not based on grudge. So this is very important because the correction, the purpose of correcting somebody is for the benefit of, and advancement of the other person. But correction can also be used for the sake of our own gratification when we correct somebody so that we feel better than that person. And also as a means to make that person know that, I'm better than you. But that's not what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is doing here. Actually, he's helping the devotee to do a better service to Krishna. And so that devotee will be benefited through that service. So when that mood is there, then the process of correction will actually be beneficial. So then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would also do that. He would praise the devotee who has done it nicely, and then he would tell them, you did a wonderful job, now you can teach this to others. And when others will hear that, oh, okay, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is telling that we should follow this devotee's example, and they would feel ashamed, and they would try to emulate the good example of the devotees who are doing the job very nicely. So in this way, they cleansed the temple, and then later the entire yard and the sitting places in the kitchen and every other room. So thus everything around the temple was also thoroughly cleansed. So then this pastime of a Vaishnava from Bengal who was intelligent but very simple, and then he started pouring water on the feet of Mahaprabhu. And then the devotees took that water and they started drinking. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was a little unhappy externally for what was happening. But he was satisfied inside because they had devotion for Mahaprabhu. But he externally became angry, and then he called for Swarup Damodar Goswami. And Swarup Damodar Goswami is actually the leader. He is the senior most Vaishnava. He's personal secretary of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Even Sanatana Goswami was trained by Swarup Damodar Goswami. And we know Sanatana Goswami is also senior to Rupa Goswami. So in that way, Swarup Damodar Goswami has a special position. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu called him and said, just see the behavior of your Bengali Vaishnava. And he has washed my feet within the temple. So within the temple, no one should be glorified other than Krishna. So this is the reason why sometimes even if there is announcements and glorification, what do? We close the curtains. We close the curtains during the time of announcements because we may be glorifying somebody for their sponsorships and things like this. So here Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is teaching by example that nobody should be glorified in front of the deity in the temple. Nobody should be glorified in the temple. So he is teaching by example. Of course, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Krishna himself. So when he has done that, when he expressed his external dissatisfaction to Swarup Damodar Goswami, then he took that Bengali Vaishnava by neck, he put his hand on his neck and he made him go outside the temple, to sit outside. And this is to teach everybody that we should be careful when we are within the temple. So then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, then Swarup Damodar Goswami begged for forgiveness, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was very happy. Then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu told everybody, then he started picking any other, if there is anything else little bit left, he started picking them, little grains or whatever is left. Then he told everybody to collect again all that stuff, and then whoever collects the least quantity, and that person has to sponsor the feast. Feast made of sweet cakes and sweet rice. So then they made everything spotless, so clean. And then everybody's mind was also pacified after performing this activity. And then this water that flowed by the process of cleaning, it appeared as if new rivers were coming out of the temple, outside the temple. And then they also cleansed the roads and all of that stuff. So in this regard, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he had a big purport and describing, comparing this temple cleaning pastime with the cleaning of our heart. So Sugopi asked, how do we, how do we judge our progress in Krishna consciousness? Here Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was personally helping them. Then how do we know in this day and age? So particularly, if we are executing Krishna consciousness properly, then our heart should be clean. Our heart should be clean of this dust, the grains of sand, and the straw. And these contaminations are called abhadrani. Those are the material desires. So when we constantly engage in hearing Krishna Katha, Krishna is our friend. He is the Suhrud. Suhrud means friend. And as a friend in our sitting in our heart, Krishna will personally clean our heart. But then what are the contaminations that are inside our heart? These contaminations are explained in different ways. So one is the attachment to the impersonal speculations, attachment for mystic perfections, mystic yoga, and attachment for fruitive activities. Jnana, karma, adi, anavritam. So this jnana is the speculative knowledge and acting for getting material fruitive benefits, and also some mystic perfections. So these are, if we have desire for these things other than bhakti for Krishna, they are considered to be contaminations. So that's one. And there's also other things. Krishna consciousness is also, bhakti is considered to be a creeper. When we cultivate this creeper of bhakti, there are also different upashakas. It is called upashaka, which are which look like creeper, but they'll also grow. But actually, they are the weeds within our heart. So we should cleanse. So those weeds are like the straws that the devotees were cleaning when they were doing that marjana. Does anyone know what those weeds are?
Lust.
Offenses?
Yes, offenses. Offenses are also called the mad elephant offenses. Also will destroy the creeper. So those offenses are actually considered to be like a mad elephant. But specifically, there are 5 or 6. 6 are mentioned as the upashakas.
Fame, adoration, distinction.
Yes, fame, adoration, distinction. These are, let me see, I took a note of the exact verse number. CC Madhya 19, 159. When Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is instructing Rupa Goswami, he says these are these 6 are the creeper, unnecessary creepers, upashaka. Nishiddhachara, kutinati, jiva himsana, labha puja pratishtadi yata upashaka gana. So these are the 6 things which are creeper. They may look like devotion, but they are not. This is one is the unacceptable behavior. We should have sadachara, not nishiddhachara, proper behavior. And kutinati means diplomacy. A devotee, it is recommended that we should be simple-hearted and straightforward. So diplomacy is not good. Of course, when dealing with the material world and the demoniac tendencies, diplomacy may be necessary, but not in the direct activities of Krishna consciousness. And then jiva himsa. Jiva himsa means committing violence. It is direct killing of animals as well as behaving in such a way that other person's bhakti may be affected, committing violence so that other person's bhakti will be destroyed, or impediment for others' bhakti, or hurting others by our words, causing pain to another Vaishnava. So these all come under the category of Jiva Himsa. Then Labha is the material profits. So if we still have hankering for material profit, that is also not good. That is including the desire to enjoy the material, material things in this world, taking pleasure in enjoying good material comforts. And then puja. Puja is adoration. Others, if we have so many designations, then mundane people, they will give us respect. They'll honor us, having an honorable position, being worshipped by others. And pratishtha is also having a specific position, becoming an important man. So all these are considered to be the unnecessary creepers. So if we are advancing in Krishna consciousness, then we can judge ourselves, do we have these in our heart? If someone did not give us an honorable honor, they did not offer us a position of a seat, something like that. Or if we don't occupy a particular position of an important person, important position in the society, or even within Krishna conscious society, are we hankering for some designation? So all these things, we know where we are. Do we have these weeds? So this is part of anartha nivritti, is Krishna will work on taking away these desires from our heart if we are properly engaged in Krishna consciousness. So that's the answer to your question, Sugopi. And there's a lot more things in this purport, but we don't have time. Anyone else, devotees, you have any comments or questions?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, please accept my humble obeisances. All worship Prabhupada.
Yes, my obeisances
He
are
asked a
worship Prabhupada.
really beautiful question. So on that same line of thought, is it fair to like seek feedback or go and just from the temple authority? Is there a way for us? Because I feel that feedback leads to action, corrective action, and then you can grow faster. So Mataji has a beautiful point. So is there a right etiquette or a shastric reference of a devotee who just wants to improve can go to the respective authority and ask?
Definitely, yeah, definitely. Well, like in this particular verse, the marjanam is what we are discussing, right? Gundica marjanam. And this word you'll also see in the morning prayers that we sing, Guru Ashtakam. Does anyone remember where?
Sri Vigrahara Dhananityanana Shringaratan Mandiramarjanado.
And next?
Yuktasya Bhaktanscha Niyunjatopi Vande Guru Sri Charanaravinda.
Yes, so the spiritual master, he is engaged in decorating the deities, cleansing the temple, and he is also engaging others to do so. So when spiritual master engages us, definitely there is feedback loop as well. Of course, we have Shiksha Gurus, we have Diksha Gurus, we have different gurus teaching us different things. Somebody is teaching us cooking, somebody is teaching us cleaning, somebody is teaching us scriptures. So in all these areas, we can solicit feedback from whomever we are learning these things, or even from the experts. A particular devotee may be expert in an area. So then we can ask them, how do we do this? And then we can solicit feedback. And actually, when we solicit feedback, it is easier to take correction than the correction coming on its own because of our own ego. Say if someone comes and say you did this wrong, but say if you take the first initiative and say, Prabhuji, you asked me to do this service, how was it? Is there anything I can do better? And at that time, if he gives feedback, then you don't feel as bad. But if they come on their own and gives feedback, our ego will be hurt. Our ego will be hurt. So yes, if we are willing, that's actually very nice. to ask for that feedback, and no one will object if you ask for that kind of feedback. And Anagova Prabhu, because you are very humble, you have this thought of asking for feedback.
Except the last part of your answer, everything was very good. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, anyone else? Any comments, questions? If not, we can pray for Chaitanya Mahaprabhu that will clean our hearts so that our heart will also be clean. And actually Prabhupada says only when our heart is purified and clean, Krishna will sit in our heart. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu cleansed the temple and Jagannath came and sat there. For Krishna to sit in our heart must be clean from all these things. So only when we chant nicely, engage in devotional service nicely, when our heart is cleansed, then Krishna will sit on the seat of our heart, and then he will start giving us proper guidance. And that is the process for actually feeling true happiness. True pleasure comes when Krishna is in our heart. And Krishna himself tells in Srimad Bhagavatam, he says that to Durvasa Muni, that sadhunam sadhavo hridayam mahyam sadhunam hridayam tvaham. I am in the heart of the devotees and the devotees are in my heart. So when Durvasa Muni, he caused pain to Ambarish Maharaja, and Krishna is sitting in the heart of Ambarish Maharaja, and Ambarish Maharaja is sitting in Krishna's heart. So Krishna was actually feeling the pain because of that personal relationship. So Krishna says this, that he is inside the heart of a devotee. The more we keep our heart clean, the more Krishna will manifest inside our heart. And then we can get direct guidance from Krishna for further advancement as well. So I will stop here. Thank you very much. And Jagannath is coming out tomorrow for Snana Yatra. We can all clean our hearts and pray to Jagannath that he will also reside in our hearts and make our hearts as Gundica, so that after tomorrow he will be in our hearts and stay with us. So thank you very much for your association, everybody. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhyeva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Jai Shri Jagannath Baldev Subhadra Maharani ki jai, Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ki jai, Vaishnava ki jai.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Srinivasacarya Prabhu ki jai.
I think Manish, Dev Prabhu has something.
I was just saying that if Prabhuji's and Mataji's time permits, then you can stay on the line. We will have Saturday night Kirtan. Sorry for the interruption, Prabhuji.
Yeah, no problem.
Hari Bol.
Thank you. Hari Bol.
Hare Krishna.